The massive doors to the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Senior diplomatic guard John Miller stood at perfect attention behind Ambassador Lisa Ford. His black uniform was simple yet elegant, with only a small Earth patch on his shoulder. Unlike the guards of every other species present, John carried no visible weapons. Ambassador Ford walked confidently into the grand chamber. The room was circular, with tall windows showing the stars and the curve of the space station. 57 different alien species had seats at the huge round table. Each ambassador had at least 2 guards standing behind them. Every guard except the humans carried weapons. The Viridian representative, with its 6 limbs each holding an ornate energy staff, leaned toward its neighbor. Its mouth parts moved quickly as it spoke. The humans continue this strange practice? No weapons for their protective detail? The universal translator carried the words clearly across the chamber. Several other representatives turned to look at the human delegation. John kept his face perfectly neutral, but he noticed everything. His eyes moved slightly, taking in each guard, each weapon, each possible threat. Ambassador Ford smiled politely. "We find our methods effective for our needs," she said. This was the standard answer. The aliens had stopped asking directly after the first year of human participation in the council. The council head, a tall blue-skinned Alaxian, gestured for everyone to be seated. "We welcome all representatives to the 457th session of the Galactic Council. Today we have much to discuss." John took his position behind Ambassador Ford's chair. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, feet slightly apart. His stance looked relaxed, but he was ready to move in any direction instantly. The other guards took similar positions, though many kept their hands near their weapons. The first 3 hours of the meeting focused on trade routes and mining rights. John remained perfectly still, but his eyes missed nothing. His implants recorded everything for later review. During the brief recess, Ambassador Ford walked to the refreshment area. John followed exactly 3 steps behind her. He watched as she spoke with the Centaurian ambassador, a friendly species that had good relations with Earth. "Your people continue to impress us with their adaptability," the Centaurian said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. 3 new colony worlds in? "Just 2 years," Ambassador Ford nodded. "We are eager to establish ourselves in the galactic community." John noticed the Alaxian ambassador watching this exchange with interest. The Alaxian's right hand made a subtle gesture to his guard, who nodded slightly. John filed this information away. The Alaxians had territorial claims in the same sector. As Earth's newest colony, this could be important later when the Council resumed. The topic changed to Earth's recent expansion into the Orion Arm. Several species had territorial claims there, and humanity's rapid colonization was causing tension. "The humans have established mining operations on Kepler 186F, said the Draconian ambassador, his scaled face showing no emotion. "This world sits at the edge of our claimed territory." Ambassador Ford leaned forward. The star maps provided to Earth upon our admission to the Council showed that world as unclaimed. We followed all proper protocols. John watched the reactions around the room. The Draconians were known for their aggression and territorial nature. Their guards carried plasma weapons capable of vaporizing a human in seconds. He shifted his weight slightly, preparing for any possibility. The Alaxian head of council raised his long-fingered hand. "We have reviewed the official maps. The human ambassador is correct. The world was listed as unclaimed." The Draconian ambassador's scales darkened with anger. His guards tensed, their hands moving closer to their weapons. John remained still, but his enhanced senses detected the change in the room's atmosphere. His body prepared for action, though nothing in his appearance changed. "Perhaps the maps were in error," the Draconian said, voice low and dangerous. Ambassador Ford kept her voice calm and professional. "If there was an error, we are happy to discuss fair compensation or resource-sharing agreements. Earth has no desire for conflict." John observed everything: body language, micro-expressions, pheromone shifts his implants could detect, but other species thought were unnoticeable. Information was power, and human guards were walking intelligence networks. The data he collected Now would help Earth's negotiation team later. The tension in the room slowly decreased as the discussion moved to establishing a joint commission to review the territorial claims. John noticed that the Alaxian ambassador seemed pleased with this outcome. Interesting. The Alaxians had their own reasons for wanting to limit draconian expansion. As the session ended, a Krell representative approached Ambassador Ford too quickly. The Krell were large, insect-like aliens with unpredictable movements. John shifted slightly, placing himself between the ambassador and the approaching alien. Nothing in his posture appeared threatening, just a subtle repositioning, but the Krell immediately slowed and adopted a more formal approach. John hadn't drawn a weapon. He didn't need to. "Ambassador Ford," the Krell said, its translator converting the clicks and hums to English, "my government wishes to discuss possible cultural exchanges with Earth. We would welcome such discussions." Ford replied with a diplomatic smile. Later, in the private human quarters on the station, Ambassador Ford reviewed the day's events with her team. John stood by the door, still alert even in this secure area. "The Draconians are going to be a problem," said Ford. "John, what did you observe?" John stepped forward. Their ambassador was surprised by the Council's ruling on Kepler 186F. He expected support from the Alaxians, but didn't get it. There was communication between the Alaxian ambassador and the Centaurians before the session that wasn't translated. My implants recorded it, but we'll need specialists to decode their secondary language. Ford nodded. Good catch. Anything else? The Krell are genuine in their interest in cultural exchange, but they're also gathering intelligence. Their guard was scanning our communications devices when their ambassador approached. Another diplomat looked up. "How could you possibly know?" "That?" John simply tapped his temple. "Enhanced visual spectrum. I could see the scanning frequencies." Ambassador Ford smiled. "This is why our guards don't carry weapons, people. They're too busy carrying something much more valuable, information." John returned to his position by the door. Tomorrow would bring more council sessions, more posturing, more subtle threats. The Draconians wouldn't give up easily on their territorial claims. The Alaxians had their own agenda. And somewhere in the mix, Earth needed to secure its place in the galactic community. He had signed up for diplomatic guard duty after 10 years in Earth's special forces. Many had questioned his choice, seeing it as a step down from combat operations. But John knew better. Here, at the heart of galactic politics, he was Earth's eyes and ears. No weapon could be as valuable as that dot as the human delegation prepared for the next day. None of them realized that events were already in motion that would reveal the true nature of Earth's diplomatic guards to the entire Galactic Council. 3 days into the summit, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with activity. Ambassador Ford sat at the human section of the Great Round Table, deep in negotiations with the Taurian delegation. The topic was trade routes through the Orion Arm, and the discussions had been tense all morning. John stood behind her chair, his posture perfect as always. Across the chamber, he spotted Kate Williams, another human diplomatic guard assigned to protect Earth's scientific team. They exchanged a brief glance. Something felt off today. The Draconian delegation had been unusually quiet, and the Alaxian head of council seemed distracted. The chamber's lights suddenly flickered, once, twice, then stabilized. A murmur ran through the gathered representatives. Probably just power. "Fluctuations," said a Centaurian engineer, tapping at a control panel near the wall. John's enhanced senses picked up a slight change in the air circulation. He leaned down to whisper in Ambassador Ford's ear, "Something's not right. Please be ready to move on my signal." Ford gave a tiny nod without interrupting her conversation with the Taurian ambassador. She trusted John's instincts completely. The lights flickered again, and this time they went out completely. The emergency lighting activated, bathing the chamber in a soft blue glow. A loud mechanical sound echoed through the room as massive blast doors began sliding across the chamber's exits. "Security breach in Section 8, announced the automated system, its calm voice echoing in the now silent chamber. Lockdown initiated. The various diplomatic guards immediately surrounded their charges. Weapons appeared from holsters and hidden compartments. Energy rifles, gravitational disruptors, plasma blades, the chamber suddenly bristled with advanced weaponry. John still carried nothing. Ambassador Ford glanced at him. Assessment? Not a drill, John replied quietly. But possibly not an actual threat either. Timing is suspicious given this morning's deadlock. The Draconid ambassador bellowed across the chamber. Humans, this is why your stubborn refusal to arm your guards is foolishness. What will your man do now? Politely ask attackers to wait? Several other representatives laughed nervously. John ignored them, scanning the room for the most likely entry points. He made eye contact with Kate across the chamber and exchanged a subtle nod. She had positioned herself between the scientific team and the main doors. The chamber's communication system crackled to life. Attention council members. This station is now under the control of the Proximan Liberation Front. Remain in your places and you will not be harmed. The Alaxian head of council stood. This is outrageous. The Proximan systems have representation on this council. This action is... His words were cut short as the main doors to the chamber burst open. 6 masked figures rushed in, each carrying sonic disruptors, weapons designed to incapacitate without killing. The alien guards responded with overwhelming firepower. Energy beams crisscrossed the chamber, creating more chaos than protection. John acted instantly. He grabbed Ambassador Ford, pulled her behind a thick stone pillar, and pressed his palm against a hidden panel on his wrist. A personal shield shimmered into existence around them both. Stay here, Madam Ambassador, John said calmly as he removed his formal diplomatic jacket. The fabric underneath shifted color, adapting to the chamber's lighting. Be careful, John, Ford said. She knew what he was capable of, but she also knew the risks. From across the room, Kate had done the same, creating a distraction that drew fire away from the huddled scientific team. The attackers, now identified as Proximan separatists, had disabled most of the conventional guards by targeting their obvious weapons first, but human guards had no obvious weapons. John moved with surprising speed for his size. His first target was an attacker approaching the Centauran delegation. The alien never saw him coming. One moment John was 20 feet away, the next he had crossed the distance and the attacker was unconscious on the floor. No weapons drawn. Just precisely applied force. The council members watched in shock as John disabled the attacker without any visible technology. His movements were too fast, too precise to be natural. What is this? Shouted one of the remaining attackers, turning his disruptor toward John. John didn't slow down. He moved in a blur, seeming to almost dance between energy blasts. When a shot came too close to dodge, he raised his hand and the energy beam seemed to bend around him. Across the chamber, Kate was showing similar abilities. She had positioned herself in front of the scientific team and was somehow deflecting blasts with her bare hands. When one attacker got too close, she touched his weapon and it instantly powered down. The lead attacker, seeing his team being systematically disabled, turned his weapon toward the Alaxian head of council. Stop or I'll fire! John was too far away to reach him in time. Instead, he simply gestured. The weapon flew from the attacker's hands as if pulled by an invisible force. The chamber fell silent as John stood over the last attacker, still not having drawn any conventional weapon. What are you? Asked the Viridian representative, all 6 of his limbs trembling. The attackers were quickly secured by station security forces who had finally managed to override the lockdown. As they were led away, the council representatives gathered around the human delegation, their earlier mockery replaced by wary curiosity. I believe some explanations are in order, Ambassador Ford said, straightening her jacket as she stepped out from behind the pillar. But first, is everyone unharmed? The Alaxian head of council approached slowly, his eyes fixed on John. Your guard moved faster than any being I've ever seen. He deflected energy weapons with his hands. He pulled a weapon away without touching it. He paused. These are not natural human abilities, Ford nodded. No, they are not. They are the result of extensive training and certain enhancements. Enhancements? The Draconian ambassador hissed. You bring enhanced soldiers into our council chambers and claim they are unarmed? John stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, I carry no weapons. What you saw were defensive capabilities only. The Centauran ambassador, whose life John had likely saved, raised a four-fingered hand. I think we all deserve a full explanation of these defensive capabilities, Ambassador Ford. Ford looked around the chamber. Every representative was watching, waiting. The secret of human diplomatic guards was about to be revealed. Very well, she said. I propose an emergency session in 1 hour after everyone has had a chance to recover from this incident. The human delegation will provide a full briefing on our security protocols. As the representatives dispersed, talking excitedly among themselves, John returned to Ambassador Ford's side. This isn't how we plan to introduce our capabilities, he said quietly. Ford shook her head. No, but perhaps it's better this way. A practical demonstration is worth 1,000 explanations. She looked at him closely. Are you all right? Yeah. Use several restricted abilities in front of witnesses. John nodded. I'm fine. And given the circumstances, I believe the use was justified. Agreed. Prepare for the briefing. They're going to have many questions. As John walked away to coordinate with Kate, he knew that the Galactic Council would never look at human diplomatic guards the same way again. The myth of the unarmed humans was about to be replaced by a new understanding, one that would change humanity's place in galactic politics forever. The emergency council session began exactly 1 hour after the attack. The chamber had been quickly repaired, though some scorch marks on the walls still showed where energy weapons had missed their targets. Security had been doubled with armed station guards at every entrance. Ambassador Ford stood at the center of the chamber, with John and Kate flanking her. The other council members watched them with a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. Thank you all for convening on such short notice, Ford began. Today's events have forced us to reveal certain aspects of Earth's security protocols that we had hoped to introduce more gradually. The Alaxian head of council leaned forward. Ambassador Ford, your guards displayed abilities that appear to violate our weapons ban. How do you explain this? Ford nodded. I understand your concerns, but I must correct one fundamental misunderstanding. Our guards don't carry weapons because they don't need to. They are the weapons. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. The Draconian ambassador hissed loudly. This is deception! You claim to bring no weapons into our chambers. John stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, we brought no weapons. I am a volunteer citizen of Earth who chose this path of service. I am not a weapon. I am a person who has been enhanced to protect without requiring external tools. The large display screen behind them activated, showing medical diagrams of a standard human diplomatic guard. The images highlighted numerous modifications, neurological enhancements, subdermal reinforcements, microscopic gravitational manipulators embedded throughout the skeletal structure, sensory upgrades that expanded perception far beyond normal. Human limits. Each guard undergoes 15 years of training and selective modification, Ford continued. We discovered early in our development that obvious weapons create obvious targets. They can be taken away, disabled, or detected. Our solution was to ensure our protective details could never be disarmed. The Centauran ambassador studied the diagrams with all four eyes wide. These modifications allow you to move at the speeds we witnessed? Kate nodded. Yes, Ambassador. Our reaction times are roughly 8 times faster than an unmodified human. Our muscle density and nervous system have been enhanced to support this speed. And the deflection of energy weapons? Asked the Viridian representative. John raised his hand, palm out. A slight shimmer appeared around it. Localized gravitational fields. We can bend light and energy around ourselves for short periods. It's quite energy intensive, so we use it sparingly. What about pulling the weapon from the attacker's hand? Asked another representative. That looked like telekinesis. Not telekinesis, John explained. The same gravitational technology, just applied differently. We can create a targeted gravitational pull toward our hands. It only works on objects of certain masses and at limited distances. Ambassador Ford took control of the conversation again. I want to emphasize that these enhancements are defensive in nature. Our guards are trained to neutralize threats with minimal force. Had John or Kate wanted to kill those attackers, they could have done so easily. Instead, they chose to disable them. The Alaxian head of council seemed troubled. Why keep these capabilities secret? This seems like valuable technology that could benefit many species, Ford smiled diplomatically. Not secret, exactly. Just private. Much like how the Draconians don't share the full capabilities of their plasma weapons or how the Viridians keep the power source of their energy staffs proprietary. Every species has its technological advantages. The Draconian ambassador's scales darkened with anger. This is different. Your guards are walking weapons. They cannot be detected by our security systems. Which is precisely why they're effective, Ford replied calmly. But I understand your concerns. That's why I propose a full demonstration of our guards' capabilities and limitations. Complete transparency moving forward. This suggestion seemed to calm some of the representatives. The Centauran ambassador even nodded in approval. I support this, he said. The human guards saved many lives today, including my own. I believe we should learn more about their methods. The Alaxian head of council called for a vote. After some debate, the council approved Ambassador Ford's proposal for a demonstration the following day. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, many cast curious glances at John and Kate. The human guards maintained their professional demeanor. But they knew everything had changed. Back in the human delegation's private quarters, Ambassador Ford called a meeting with all staff. Well, that could have gone worse, she said, loosening her formal collar. But now we need to decide exactly what to reveal tomorrow and what to keep to ourselves. John leaned against the wall. The basic enhancements are already exposed. They saw the speed, the reflexes, the gravitational manipulation, but not the neural network, Kate added. They don't know about our communication abilities or how our implants process information. Ambassador Ford nodded. Good, we'll focus. The demonstration on the physical abilities they've already witnessed. The data gathering and processing capabilities remain classified. The science team leader, Dr. Paul Green, brought up a holographic display of John's internal systems. We should emphasize the medical applications of this technology. Many of these enhancements were originally developed to help injured or disabled humans. Good angle, Ford agreed. Humanitarian applications always play well with the council. John studied the hologram of his own enhanced body. Sometimes he forgot how much of him had been modified over the years. It had been a gradual process, starting with basic neural implants, then muscle density enhancement, skeletal reinforcement, sensory upgrades. Each procedure had made him less like his original self and more like ... something else. Something on your mind, John? Ford asked, noticing his silence. Just thinking about tomorrow's demonstration. They're going to ask how the technology works. How much do we share? Ambassador Ford's expression became serious. We share enough to reassure them that we're not a threat, but not enough that they can replicate our technology, standard protocol. Kate looked troubled. Some of them were scared of us today. I saw it in their eyes. Fear often precedes respect in diplomatic relations, Ford said. By this time tomorrow, they'll understand that our approach to security isn't about aggression, it's about efficiency. As the meeting continued, John moved to the window that overlooked the space station's central hub. Ships from dozens of worlds docked and departed below. Humanity was still new to this galactic community, still finding its place among the stars. Today that place had shifted. The humans were no longer seen as the strange species who sent unarmed guards to protect their diplomats. Now they were the species with guards who didn't need weapons. John wasn't sure which reputation would serve Earth better in the long run. But he knew that tomorrow's demonstration would shape how the galaxy viewed humanity for years to come. He would need to be careful to show enough of his abilities to impress, but not enough to frighten. It was a delicate balance, much like diplomacy itself. And in the end, that was why human diplomatic guards were chosen not just for their physical capabilities, but for their judgment. Tomorrow would test both. The demonstration was set up in the station's largest training facility. Tiered seating surrounded a central area that had been cleared of equipment. Every council representative had attended, along with their security teams. The room buzzed with excited conversations in dozens of languages. John and Kate stood in the center of the room, wearing simple black training clothes instead of their formal uniforms. Ambassador Ford stood nearby with Dr. Paul Green, who would explain the scientific aspects of their enhancements. The Alaxian head of council raised his hands for silence. We are gathered to witness a demonstration of human diplomatic guard capabilities. As promised by Ambassador Ford, we ask that all questions be held until the end of each demonstration. Ford stepped forward. Thank you all for coming. We understand that yesterday's events raised concerns. Today we hope to address those concerns through transparency and education. She gestured to Dr. Green. Our Chief Medical Officer will explain the scientific foundation of our program. Dr. Green activated a holographic display that showed human anatomy. Human enhancement began on Earth over 100 years ago as medical technology. Our first goal was to help people recover from injuries and illness. The display showed early prosthetic limbs, then more advanced versions that connected directly to the nervous system. Over time, we developed the ability to enhance healthy individuals, always on a voluntary basis. Our diplomatic guards are among our most enhanced citizens, with modifications that focus on defensive capabilities and information gathering. The draconian ambassador interrupted. We did not come to hear a history lesson. Show us what they can do. Ford nodded to John and Kate. Very well. We'll begin with a simple demonstration of speed and reflexes. Station security officers brought out a device that looked like a small cannon. This is a standard training tool, Ford explained. It fires soft projectiles at varying speeds up to 300 meters per second. Several representatives gasped. That was faster than many species could even see, let alone react to. John took position 20 meters from the device. Ready, he said. The cannon fired without warning. A small blue ball shot toward John at incredible speed. To most observers, it was just a blur. But John's hand moved smoothly, catching the projectile effortlessly. Again, he said, multiple projectiles. This time, the cannon fired 5 balls in rapid succession. John caught the first 2, dodged the third, caught the fourth, and deflected the fifth with a swipe of his hand. The entire sequence took less than 2 seconds. The Centauran ambassador clicked his mandibles in appreciation. Remarkable reaction. Time. Is this purely biological enhancement? Dr. Green shook his head. It's a combination of enhanced nervous system, muscle density, and neural processing. John's brain processes visual information approximately 8 times faster than an unmodified human, and his muscles can respond accordingly. Kate stepped forward for the next demonstration. A security officer handed her a metal rod. This is standard station-grade metal alloy, Kate explained. Watch carefully. She held the rod in both hands and applied pressure. Slowly, the metal began to bend. When she had formed it into a U shape, she handed it to the nearest representative, a Viridian who examined it with all 6 limbs. The strength required to bend this material is considerable, the Viridian noted. Our strongest workers would need tools for this task. Enhanced muscle density and bone structure, Dr. Green explained. Our guards can exert approximately 5 times the force of an unmodified human. The demonstrations continued. John and Kate showed their enhanced senses by identifying objects and sounds that were beyond normal human perception. They demonstrated limited durability by allowing a security officer to strike them with a training baton, which they absorbed without injury. Then came the demonstration that most of the council was waiting for. You saw our guards manipulate gravitational fields yesterday, Ford said. This is perhaps our most advanced technology. It requires both mechanical implants and specialized training. A large metal sphere was brought into the center of the room. It weighed approximately 50 kilograms, according to Dr. Green. John stood 3 meters away from the sphere. He extended his hand, palm facing the object. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly the sphere began to move toward him. It didn't roll, it floated several centimeters above the ground, moving as if pulled by an invisible force. When the sphere reached him, John allowed it to settle gently back to the floor. The room was completely silent. The gravitational manipulators are located throughout the skeletal structure, Dr. Green explained, showing a diagram on the holographic display. They create localized gravitational fields that can attract or repel objects of certain masses within a limited range. Can you repel energy weapons with this technology? Asked the Draconian ambassador, his voice suspicious. John nodded. Yes, to some extent. The gravitational field can bend light and energy around us. It's not perfect, and it requires significant energy from our internal power sources, but it provides an additional layer of protection. So you are walking weapons, the Draconian said. Just as I claimed, Ambassador Ford stepped forward. No, Ambassador. They are highly trained security personnel with enhanced defensive capabilities. There's an important distinction. What distinction? The Draconian demanded. Intent, John said simply. Everything you've seen today is designed to protect, not to harm. We could have equipped our guards with concealed weapons that would pass through your security systems. Instead, we chose to enhance the guards themselves with a focus on defensive and protective abilities. The Alaxian head of council studied John with interest. You said these enhancements are voluntary. Why would someone choose this path? John looked around the room before answering. I was a soldier before becoming a diplomatic guard. I saw what weapons did to both sides of a conflict. When I had the opportunity to protect people without relying on traditional weapons, I volunteered immediately. Kate nodded in agreement. Most of us come from military or security backgrounds. We see this role as an evolution of protection, moving beyond the need to harm in order to defend. This seemed to resonate with many of the representatives. The Centaurian ambassador, in particular, nodded his four-eyed head in understanding. I have one final question, said the Viridian representative. Why keep these abilities secret until now? Ambassador Ford smiled diplomatically. Not secret, just private. Every species has technological advantages they don't immediately share. We were waiting for the right time to introduce these capabilities to the Council. The attack forced your hand, observed the Alaxian. It did, Ford admitted. But perhaps that's for the best. You've now seen our guards' abilities in action, both in a crisis and in a controlled demonstration. You can judge for yourselves whether they pose a threat to this council. The Alaxian head of council looked around at the other representatives. I believe we have much to discuss. This session is adjourned for now. The council will meet privately to consider what we have learned today. As the representatives filed out, many cast curious glances at John and Kate. Some looked fearful, others impressed. The human guards maintained their professional composure, but John could tell that opinions were divided. Well done, Ambassador Ford said quietly as they left the training facility. You showed enough to reassure them without revealing everything. John nodded. What happens now? Now we wait, Ford replied. The council will debate, they'll express concerns, they'll make demands, and eventually they'll accept this new reality. Because ultimately, what choice do they have? John wasn't so sure. He had seen the look in the Draconian ambassador's eyes, fear mixed with anger. That was a dangerous combination. Be alert tonight, he told Kate as they headed back to the human quarters. I don't think this demonstration has put everyone's minds at ease. Kate nodded grimly. I noticed. Some of them seemed more frightened after the demonstration than before. They both knew that fear often led to unpredictable responses. And in galactic politics, unpredictability could be dangerous. The true test was yet to come. The next morning, tension filled the station. Guards from different species eyed each other warily in the corridors. The human delegation remained in their quarters, waiting for the council's decision. John stood by the window, watching ships come and go from the docking bays? Any word yet? Kate asked as she joined him. John shook his head. They've been in closed session for 6 hours. That's longer than usual for security protocol revisions. Ambassador Ford entered the room, looking tired but determined. We've been summoned. The council has reached a decision. The human delegation made their way to the council chamber. John noticed increased security everywhere, more guards, more visible weapons. The station was on high alert. When they entered the chamber, all eyes turned to them. The circular room was arranged differently today. Instead of the usual large round table, the representatives sat in tiered seating, like a courtroom. The human delegation was directed to stand in the center. The Alaxian head of council rose from his seat. Ambassador Ford, we have reviewed the information provided in yesterday's demonstration. We have also consulted with our respective governments. This is not a simple matter, Ford nodded respectfully. We understand, council head. Some members view your enhanced guards as a violation of our weapons ban, the Alaxian continued. Others see them as an innovative approach to security that harms no one. We have debated at length, the Draconian ambassador stood. Let the record show that the Draconian Empire objects to these human enhancements. They give Earth an unfair advantage in diplomatic negotiations. The Centaurian ambassador rose next. And let the record show that the Centaurian Republic supports the human approach. Their guards saved many lives during the attack, including my own. More representatives stood to voice their opinions. The chamber grew loud with arguments in multiple languages. John remained perfectly still, but his enhanced senses captured every word, every subtle movement. He noticed the Viridian security chief speaking quietly with his guards, who seemed unusually tense. The Alaxian head of council raised his hands for silence. We have reached a compromise decision. Ambassador Ford, please listen carefully. Ford stepped forward. We are listening, council head. First, we acknowledge that human diplomatic guards technically do not violate the letter of our weapons ban, as they carry no separate weapons. However, they clearly violate its spirit, as they possess capabilities beyond normal biological functions. Several representatives nodded in agreement. Therefore, we propose the following. Human diplomatic guards will continue to be permitted within council chambers and facilities, but with new transparency requirements. Each guard must wear an indicator that shows when they are using their enhanced abilities, particularly the gravitational manipulation. Ford considered this. That seems reasonable. Furthermore, the Alaxian continued, we wish to establish a cultural exchange program. Several council species have expressed interest in learning more about human enhancement technology, particularly its medical applications. This was unexpected. John glanced at Kate, who looked equally surprised. In exchange, the Alaxian said, those species will share certain technologies of their own. The Centaurians have offered medical regeneration techniques. The Viridians have offered power source miniaturization. Ambassador Ford smiled slightly. A technology exchange instead of sanctions. That is unexpectedly pragmatic, council head. We are diplomats, Ambassador Ford. Our job is to find solutions that benefit all parties. The Draconian ambassador hissed in disapproval. Not all parties agree with this decision. The Alaxian turned to him. Your objection is noted, Ambassador. But the council has voted, and the majority supports this approach. John studied the Draconian carefully. The alien scales had darkened, a sign of anger in their species. This wasn't over yet. There is one final matter, the Alaxian said. We have received a request from station security regarding the Proximan attackers captured during the incident. They claim to have information about a larger plot, but will only speak with the human guards who captured them. This was highly unusual. Prisoners rarely requested to speak with those who had apprehended them. May I ask why? Ford inquired. They would not say. But station security believes the information may be valuable. Ford turned to John. Guard Miller, would you be willing to speak with the prisoners? John nodded. Of course, Ambassador. The Draconian ambassador stepped forward suddenly. This is highly irregular. These prisoners should be questioned by neutral security forces, not by the humans. The Alaxian head of council raised a hand. A security officer will accompany the human guard. This is not a negotiation, Ambassador. After the council session ended, John followed a station security officer to the detention area. The Proximan prisoners were held in separate cells with energy barriers instead of physical doors. The lead attacker sat on a simple bench in his cell. He looked up when John approached. "The human who moves like shadow," he said through his translator. "I knew you would come." John stood on the other side of the energy barrier. "You asked to speak with me. Why?" The Proximan leaned forward. "Because you need to know the truth. We were paid to attack the council." John kept his face neutral, though this was surprising. Paid by whom? The Draconians. They wanted to force the humans to reveal their abilities. They have been gathering information about your kind for months. This confirmed John's suspicions about the Draconian ambassador's unusual behavior. "Why tell me this?" The Proximan laughed bitterly. "Because we were betrayed. The Draconians promised us safe passage off the station. Instead, they planned to destroy our ship once we left, eliminating all evidence of their involvement." John processed this information quickly. If true, it meant the Draconians had orchestrated the entire incident to expose human capabilities, possibly to find weaknesses or to develop countermeasures. "I'll need proof of these claims," John said. The Proximan nodded. "Check our communication devices. The payment transfers are encrypted, but your enhanced systems might be able to decode them." Back at the human quarters, John shared this information with Ambassador Ford and the security team. They analyzed the Proximan devices and found evidence supporting the prisoner's claims. "This changes everything," Ford said. "The Draconians didn't just object to our guards, they actively tried to expose them. What do we do now?" Kate asked. Ford thought for a moment. "We don't confront them directly. That would only escalate tensions. Instead, we use this knowledge strategically." The final day of the summit carried a different atmosphere. The alien representatives viewed the human delegation with a mixture of caution, respect, and curiosity. Guards from other species had begun engaging John and Kate in conversation during breaks, some even requesting demonstration of their capabilities. "Your approach is efficient," admitted the chief of the Viridian security detail. "But doesn't it make you too valuable?" "Too expensive to risk?" John shook his head. "That's where you misunderstand our philosophy. We don't see ourselves as weapons or tools. Every guard here volunteered for both the modifications and the duty. We serve because we believe in diplomacy first. That's why we're trained as intensively in cultural understanding and negotiation as we are in protection." Ambassador Ford's closing address to the council reflected this perspective. Perhaps what the events of this summit have truly revealed is not just why human guards don't carry weapons, but a fundamental difference in how humanity views security. We believe true safety comes not from displaying power, but from integrating our defensive capabilities so thoroughly that they become invisible until needed. As the session adjourned, the Galactic Council formally updated the diplomatic security protocols, creating a special classification for human protective details. They would still enter chambers seemingly unarmed. But now everyone understood that appearances were deceiving. John resumed his position behind Ambassador Ford as they prepared to depart. The Draconian ambassador passed nearby, his eyes narrowed. In suspicion, John met his gaze calmly, revealing nothing. "A successful summit, despite everything," Ford said quietly as they walked toward their ship. "Yes, Ambassador," John replied. "Just doing my job." What neither mentioned was the wealth of information they now possessed about each species' reactions to human capabilities. Knowledge that would shape diplomatic strategy for years to come. After all, in the grand game of galactic politics, information was the most powerful weapon of all and one that never needed to be visible to be effective.